Tirumala, brother of Ramaraya, declared himself king in 1570, starting the Aravidu, that is the fourth dynasty. After his sons and grandsons ruled the truncated kingdom for two generations, probably up to 1630. There were some kings who ruled as fugitives until 1670 without a permanent capital. Real power was wielded by the many Nayak chiefs in various parts of the country. Some of them feigned royalty to the king, while others opposed him. There were fights between the loyalists and others. In 1601, there was bitter fighting near Uttarameru between the loyalist Yajama Nayak of Perumbede and the Nayak of Vellur. In this quarrel, Vellur Nayak was supported by Tanjavur, Madurai, and Senji Nayak, who had become independent rulers. Administration. The king was the ultimate authority in the kingdom. He was also the supreme commander of the army. He was assisted by several high-ranking officers. The chief minister was known as the Mahapradhani. He led a number of lower-ranking officers like Dalave commander, vassal god of the palace, Rayasam, secretary accountant, Adaipam, personal assistant, and Karyakarta, executive agents. As Haryana won and his immediate successors consolidated their territorial acquisitions, they tried to organize the territory by creating administrative divisions called Rajias or provinces, each under a governor called Pradhani. Some of the prominent Rajias were the Hoysala Rajya, Araga, Barakur, and Mangalore, and Mulve. And when new consuls were made, they were put under new Rajias. By 1400, there were five Rajias in the Tamil area: Chandragiri, Padaividu, Valudalampattu, Tiruchirappalli, and Tiruvarur. The Pradhani was either a royal member or a military officer not related to the royal family. The Pradhani had his own revenue accountants and military to assist in his administration. Within each Rajya, there were smaller administrative divisions like Nadu, Simas, Talas, Kampana, etc. The lowest unit was of course the village. The Rajias lost their administrative and revenue status under the Tuluva dynasty due to the development of the Nayak system under Krishnadevaraya. The term Nayak is used from 13th century onwards in Telugu and Kannada areas in the sense of a military leader or simply soldier. Assigning the revenue of a particular locality to the Nayak for their military service is found in the Kakatiya kingdom during the 13th century. This is similar to the Ikta system practiced during the Delhi Sultanate at that time. But in the Vijayanagar kingdom, the regular assignment of revenue yield and territory in return for military service is clearly found only from the about 1500 or a little earlier. Inscriptions refer to this revenue assignment in Kattanam in Tamil, Kattanam in Nayakattanam in Tamil, Nayaktanam in Kannada, and Nayakaram in Telugu. The practice became established during the reign of Krishnadevaraya and Achyuta Devaraya. This is supported by the evidence of inscriptions and by the accounts of Nunis and Pais. Nunis says that the Vijayanagar kingdom at that time was divided between more than 200 captains. His translation for Nayak, and they were compelled in turn to keep certain number of military forces, horses, and foot soldiers to serve the king in times of need. They were also required to pay a certain amount of the revenue to the king in particular times of the year, like during the 9-day Mahanavami festival. Newni statement is also supported by Telugu work Raya Vachakamu, which refers to the practiced during the time of Krishnadevaraya. Later day was Vamsavali's family history of the Palakaras, who were mostly successors of the old Nayak family, support the fact that the Nayak system was perfected during the time of Krishnadevaraya. Most of these Nayak were Kannadaga and Telugu warriors, besides some local chiefs. They belonged to different castes, Brahmana as well as non-Brahmana. The non-Brahmana Nayaks again had different social backgrounds. Traditional warrior groups, pastoral and forest clans, Yadava, Billama, peasant families, Reddy, merchants, Balija, and so on. Some of the prominent Nayak like Chellappa under Krishnadevaraya were Brahmanas. The system worked smoothly as long as there were strong kings like Krishnadevaraya. These chiefs controlled the production within their Nayakatam territories by creating commercial centers, and markets, encouraging settlement of cultivators and artisans citizens with tax concessions by creating and maintaining irrigation facilities, etc. Many of them started as high officials, commander, governor, accountant, etc., and served as the king's agents. After the Talikota battle, most of the Nayak chiefs became independent of the Vijayanagar king. Some of them, like those of Madurai, Chanjavur, Ikeri, etc., established powerful states controlling many smaller chiefs under them. The 17th century was the century of these bigger Nayak kingdoms. Continuous warfare and the resultant widespread sufferings were common features of all early and medieval societies. Bahmani and Vijayanagar period is no exception to this. Perhaps the scale looks large due to the availability of many icons. The other consequences which were enduring during the centuries were the displacement and migration of people. During the 3 centuries of this chapter, we find that such migrations everywhere. The conflicts in the Bahmani courts were due to the migration of Turks, Afghans, and Persians into the Deccan. As far as the Vijayanagar area is concerned, they took the migrations of Kannada and Telugu warriors and their followers into Tamil areas and elsewhere. Many of the Nayaka chiefs belongs to these language groups. Peasants, artisans, and other toiling groups were also part of this migration. The other consequence was the widening gap between the ruling class and the ruled. All the foreign visitors refer to the enormous riches and affluence enjoyed by the rulers, the officials, and the upper echelons in the capital cities like Vijayanagar, Bijapur, and the like. In contrast to widespread poverty among the masses, they also refer to the prevalence of slavery. The state had to derive their revenue only by taxing the people. It is found that during the Sangama dynasty, when the Vijayanagar rule was extended to new areas, their officers were harsh in tax collection, which provoked the toiling people to rise in revolt. One such revolt took place in 1430 in central parts of Tamil Nadu. This was the revolt in which all the basic producers joined, forgetting their caste differences. The revolt took place due to the unjust and arbitrary tax demands of the government, including the Pradhani governor, his military bodies, and the landlords. It is said the Vijayanagar prince intervened and pacified the revolting people by allowing and taxing reduction during the 16th century under the Nayak system. The local Nayaks tried to encourage craft production like weaving by giving tax concessions now and then. The Vijayanagar period witnessed striking development in the field of non-agrarian crafts. Until the 19th and 13th century, the economy was mainly agrarian. From the 14th century onwards, the economy became more commercial. With the beginning of the era of money, economy circulation, and the use of coined money increased manifold. Artisans like weavers, smiths, and masons became more prominent in the society. These non-agrarian groups were generally called the Pattadai or Kasaya Vargam. And that is the place that in cash, taxes in cash, large number of commercial and weaving centers came up in northern Tamil Nadu, Rayalaseema, and coastal Andhra. Naturally, the textiles found an important commodity from South Indian ports. Textiles became main commercial attractions for the Portuguese and other European traders who started coming in the early 16th century. The Vijayanagar rulers were also great patrons of literature. The rulers increased Sanskrit, Tamil, Telugu, and Kannada literatures and languages, and the literary development reached its peak in the reign of Krishna Deva Raya. He was also a great patron of art and literature and was known as Andhra Bhoja. Sayana, the great Sanskrit scholar of this period, wrote commentaries on the Vedas. These commentaries are considered as the standard commentaries even today. He was a minister of Harihara too. And the Madhavacharya was a well-known Sanskrit scholar who was intimately connected with Vijayanagar royal family. Ganga Devi, wife of Kampana, son of Bukka, deserves a preeminent place among the writers of the age. In her famous work Madhura Vijayam, she describes in Mahakavya style the conquest of Madura by her husband Hannamma and Thirumalamma were famous poets of this period. Hannamma was reported in the court of Devaraya too. Krishna Devaraya patronized Tamil scholars. Tamil scholars of Saivism, Vaishnavism, and Jainism were encouraged. Thirumalai Annamalai and his son Paranjodiyar were well-known scholars of the period. Chidambara Puranam and Chokkana Tarula were written by Tirumalai Nada, Shevai Buduvar translated the Bhagavata Puranam into Tamil. Vadamalavi Annagalayam was the author of Irusamaya Philakain, a work on um, Vaishnavism, and Nachana Somanada was a great scholar both in Sanskrit and Telugu. The greatest poet during the era was, however, Pillamari Pina Virabhadra Kavi, who composed the Telugu version of Kalidasa Shakuntalam in verse. Devaraya I was a patron of learning. In his court lived the famous Telugu poet Srinada, who wrote Hara Vilasam. Krishnadevaraya was known as Abhinava Bhoja. Eight the great Telugu poets adorned his court. They were known as Astadigas, Alasa Pedana, Nandi Timana, Tenali, and others were the Telugu poets in his course. Alasi Pedana was the greatest, and he was described as Andhra Kavita Pitamaha. Alasa Pedana was the author of Manu Charita in Telugu. Tenali Rama was the famous scholar and jester of Krishna Devaraya. Raya. He was the author of Panduranga Mahatyam. Krishnadevaraya himself was the Mahamutamalaya in Telugu. He relates the story of the daughter of Periyalvar Goda Devi, and he himself was great scholar of Sanskrit, scholar of Sanskrit as well as Telugu. Usha Parinayam and Jambavadi Kalyanam are his famous works, Sanskrit works. Krishnadevaraya is regarded as the classic face of Telugu literature, and he has been therefore rightly known as Andhra Pitamaha. A large number of works in Kannada were produced during this period. Bhima Kavi translated Vasava Purana into Kannada. Harihara too had earned the title of Kanaka. Vidya Vilasa, a Kannada version of the Ramayana, was composed by Kumara Valmiki. And the Vijayanagar rulers were great builders during this period. Palaces and temples, huge forts were built. The Vijayanagar rulers produced new style of architecture called Dravida style. The chief characteristics were the construction of tall Raya Gopurams or gateways and Kalyana Mandapam. The structures on the pillars were carved with distinct features. The horse was the most common animal to be depicted on the pillars. Large mandapams contain 100 pillars as well as 1000 pillars in big temples. Fine examples of Kalyana Mandapa can be seen at Vellore and also in the Varada Rajaswamy and Yegambaranada temples at Kanchipuram and in the Jambukeshwara temple at Tiruchirappalli. During the period of the Vijayanagar kings, temples were built up in Hampi, Sringeri, Tirupati, Kalahasti, Nandi, Kolar, Srihaila. New elements were introduced in the temple architecture. Amma Shrine were the in addition to the main shrine, smaller temple was built in the northwest called Amma Shrine, where the Lord or main deity's concert resided. The practice which began in late Chola period is now became the rule. The palace of the king was the most conspicuous building in the city. The Raya Gopurams at Tiruvannamalai and Chidambaram speak the glorious epoch of Vijayanagar. They were continued by the Nayak rulers in the later period. The finest temples in the Vijayanagar kingdom are in Kampi, which we designated as the World Heritage City. Their capital city, Vijayanagar, stood on the south bank of river Tungabhadra. After the Battle of Talikota, 1565, this splendid city fell prey to the havoc and destruction. Krishnadevaraya was a great builder. He founded the town Nagalapura near Vijayanagar in memory of his mother Nagamba and built Gopurams and temples in various parts of empire. The most famous of the temples are Vithala Swami temple and Virupaksha temple. The famous Hazara temple built during the reign of Krishnadevaraya is remarked by longest one of the most perfect specimens of Hindu architecture in existence. The paintings at Vithala Virabhadra temple and Lepakshi temple show the excellence of Vijayanagar painters.